awakening souls out there. Today is the 27th of April 2024, and in this episode we are going to dive into archetypes a little bit and how they function as a map for navigating the unconscious, your own personal one and the collective as well. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Roxana. I'm your hero's journey and transformational coach, and this is the Conscious Cruising Podcast. Yes, as I said, archetypes help you navigate the unconscious, your personal one, and as a reflection, the collective as well. Yes, since we're all one and the same, changing your outside reality is finally no longer required. It's no longer your problem, because all you need to do is to navigate and work with your own shadow self as a winning team. Consider your shadow self your own teammate to heal, to improve, and to enhance your well-being. And by default, you will be enhancing the well-being of the collective, affecting the change in your outer environment. All you need to do is to tend to your own inner garden. I mean, it's always been like that. This has always been the reality of things. Only very few people realized this truth until now. At the moment, we're still in the minority of those people who understand the dynamics of reality. But starting from this year, and the last few years have been prepping us, starting from this year and this great awakening that we're going through collectively at the moment, more and more people are realizing this, and many more people are being forced to realize this. And this latter category, they're being forced to embrace change and begin to explore their inner world, to connect with the real power that is innate to us, or just go on a completely different direction. This is not going to be very pleasant. And guess what, actually? Those people who decided to cling to the status quo and not change, everything is fine anyway, because there'll come a point one day, no matter how long you're going to hold on, when you're ready to give up and let go, you will always be on time. So it's never too late. And it's never too late, but this year there's really a big train that is a big opportunity for all of us. So at the moment, these energies have completely shifted. Like the shift that we've been waiting for is here. We probably didn't expect it that way, that would be here and it would be like this, but it's here now. And although I said it's never too late, this year in particular, as I said, it's actually going to feel more and more unbearable to those people who refuse to acknowledge their spiritual aspect and look within. In fact, since the solar eclipse earlier this month, the energy in the collective has completely changed now, and the paradigm has been shifted. If you still don't see it, trust me, you'll feel it at some point this year. So I feel it's beneficial for everyone to acquire this knowledge, because if you are unaware of my background, my name is Roxana, and I've been working with the shadow self through archetypes in a creative way, and also lately with deprogramming. In the last couple of years with deprogramming, but yes, I've been coaching and working with the shadow self for many years now, and also through 2 decades of solid Buddhist practice. So it's been basically my life work. So today I'd like to talk about how archetypes can be helpful in navigating your unconscious and the world of emotions, in healing your trauma and deactivate your old limiting beliefs, such as, for example, overcoming limiting beliefs that are hidden underneath addictions, for instance, especially nowadays, addiction to technology, burnout, imposter syndrome, and even chronic illnesses, because, and this is just an example of a few things that you can overcome and transform. As I said, people have overcome and transformed their chronic illnesses and terminal illnesses at the last stage, like cancer. It is possible, because see, without a healed mind, there is no healed body. I'm going to say it again. Without a healed mind, there is no healed body. So if you're seeking treatment of some kind, physical treatment of some kind, especially if it's to heal something that has been going on for a long time and has been giving you a lot of grief, I would recommend you to work with a deprogramming coach alongside the other modalities, the physical modalities, because it's going to be a whole different journey for you. I guarantee it. And isn't it time for you to start meeting yourself face to face? You know, the real you and what's going on within. Looking at your fears and your tendencies and your frustrations. While you're actually being healed by a physical healer, you're also taking this journey. And everything that goes on beneath the surface, when you've put up with your less than optimum health for a long time, what do you think is going to happen? Isn't it time to change your recipe? I really invite you to try different approaches. Maybe not with me, it doesn't really matter, but trying any remedy that is non-physical alongside any treatment for whatever physical ailment you may have, because this is not just for people who have physical illness, but it certainly works. It's very potent. If you do this alongside any other treatment, you can get closer to discovering a completely new relationship with yourself. It'll make you feel more fulfilled right where you are, even in the midst of a troubling situation, a painful situation, physically, a frustrating situation. I promise you that it will change the quality of your suffering. It will transform it, really. Because illness is nothing more than imbalance. An imbalance that comes from your unconscious, from your emotions that are not heard, from your neglected spiritual self as well, or better, from your disconnection from your spiritual self. And the disconnection or the reconnection with your spiritual self is something that comes at the end of this journey when you start really hunt for patterns in yourself, in your behavior, and hunt pains, little pains. Start from little things. Hunt pains that you usually try to avoid, to brush off, you try to distract from. When if you don't have to do it alone at the beginning. That's why a coach will help you, and your healing practitioner as well. You have a team of people supporting you. So there are people who will still be cynical of what I just said and will mention the S word, which is science. Science this and science that. Let me tell you about science. Real science respects and doesn't neglect the spiritual and mystic aspect of the human psyche and of the nature of life. It's mainstream science that has repressed that mystical aspect of life, and therefore everything is limited to the confine and by the confine of the egoic mind in this physical reality. And no, I'm not a scientist, but that's not required, but in an intelligent thinking mind to recognize true science from pseudoscience. And actually, to be completely honest here, all those people and descriptions you find in your Wikipedia nowadays, well, as a rule of thumb, anything that your Wikipedia defines as pseudo, like pseudoscientist or pseudoscience, you can take that to be the opposite. And by the same token, anything that is presented by your Wikipedia as some important movement, professionals with prizes and OBE and being knighted by the Queen of England and anything acclaimed officially may well be the opposite as well. So, okay, granted, that one may not always be the case, but 90% of the time, yes. So I would take anything that you read in the Wikipedia with an enormous pinch of salt. So going back to the pseudoscience that studies the phenomena of existence while suppressing and undermining the spiritual aspect of life, well, you can think and react as you like. I don't really care. I'm here to invite people to finally be attuned to the real phenomena of life, of existence. If you don't feel this is for you, that's fine by me, because I don't expect to make sense to everyone. So archetypes are within you, within me. They're within every one of us. And they create the very foundation of human behavior. Did you know that you can actually work with archetypes, and it's one of the most multi-layered ways of cultivating more love, more happiness, confidence, as well as accessing guidance and a sense of well-being on your hero's journey, which is also an archetype. Archetypes are patterns of behavior that aid and influence our mental, emotional, and spiritual growth as human beings. And you can think of an archetype as quite literally a type of energy. Just like the many species and groups that structure our earthly existence, an archetype is a quality or essence that forms the underlying framework of consensus reality. And it's a bit like the many pieces of the cosmic puzzle, you know. Archetypes are separate and easily definable qualities that compose the whole big puzzle of a psyche, of a person. Originally, they were conceptualized by Carl Jung with the aid of the language that was provided by the Romantics over a century before him, as I was saying in the previous podcast, because as a linguist and a bilingual speaker, I've come to realize a long time ago that everything in this dimension is created through language. And in fact, George Orwell's novel 1984 illustrates this reality well. As an aside, I'll advise you to read 1984 if you've never read it. It's quite a heavy book, but in the light of what is happening today, with this great collective awakening, it should be a must-read for everyone. Even those who've already read it, to reread it at the moment would be helpful, because I guarantee you that you'll be able to see more things in it. Going back to the main point, in my academic research and in my experience as well, while I was studying all this, language helps us make sense of this existence in this immediate reality. The Romantic literary movement, as I said, came during transformational time in Western history. And the language that was coined by the poets and activists of the post-French Revolution's generations, i.e. the Romantics, was a new language for the collective consciousness of the time and for the times after that. These poets were concerned more with the power of nature, of dreams, and all of the things going on in the inner world of a human being. And a lot of the language that the Romantics were working with became then the foundation of exploration of human psyche a century later, when psychology was born. So, archetypes have an endless array of nuances and subtleties. In fact, they're the most subtle ways of identifying patterns in the chaotic inner world of emotions. And that's why we're using them to map out the unconscious. These paradigms are a blueprint of who we are, and they can include physical signs, although it's mostly about our behavior, our inclinations, what we naturally like and love and what we naturally have an aversion to. So our unique qualities and talents are defined by archetypes. Like if you're a magician, you're a mathematician, and you're a magician as well. I'm a magician. An artist, an engineer, somebody's very good with animals. These are all kind of also defined by the archetype. And the archetype are not people; they're just a guideline. But when we recognize patterns, we can embody them for a moment and see how they can be helpful. So archetypes are out there in huge numbers. In fact, there are so many of them that it'll be impossible to include them all here or to talk about them all in one session. So I will strive to share with you the ones that I use most often in the hero's journey and other programs. Because when working with deprogramming, we can first observe the archetypes in details. We are looking for patterns through archetypes, but then they're just a way in, and then the archetypes are kind of gone for a moment. When a pattern in our unconscious behavior shows up, we can recognize it through a specific archetype or small groups of archetypes. Of course, it's not always straightforward. And in some cases, we can attempt to recognize some types. But one way or another, the pattern will reveal the path to the hurt that is inside and or a message from the unconscious which wants your attention. And that can be the beginning, a starting point to tackle the shadow aspects and then release them. I'm going to mention some of them, and I'd like to invite you, if you want, to pay attention to any archetype that jumps at you. And if you find one that intrigues you or triggers you, or something that even enwraps you or even disgusts you, if you find it very uncomfortable, pay attention and write them down. They may be the archetypes you need to work with most closely. Keep the list handy. If you want to jump on a complimentary discovery call with me, I'll be happy to discuss them with you in a bit more details in private, but only if you want to. As I said, the hero's journey is an archetype itself, and it's commonly used in writing, films, literature, since ancient times. It's what they call a monomyth, because all the stories use the same myth of the hero's journey. And Joseph Campbell had written a book about it, and that's hence how the hero's journey came to be coined by him, where he explored this particular monomyth in great details for storytellers. And as a filmmaker transitioning from post-production to personal growth coaching, I've actually been using this archetype as a tool for personal development for many years. And since my training is always evolving through for many years, and I have to say that over the years is always evolving my version of the hero's journey, because I can use it in many different ways through my continuous updating of my training, because expansion and growth never end. And I, for one, as a coach and a leader for other people, as a guide, I have the duty to continue working on myself with these tools and with a coach and supervisor. I've always had a coach and supervisor. This is especially important in the light of my experience as well with a past trainer of mine who eventually showed that she wasn't walking her talk and was projecting and behaving irresponsibly towards a group of people, including myself. And by behaving irresponsibly and taking advantage of a position of power as a leader of a particular community, eventually she ended up displaying gaps in her awareness of herself and her projected traumas, and ultimately revealed that she didn't really have a supervisor or coach that would sustain her and help her to be on the lookout for her shortcomings. Because had she done that, she would have come to deal with certain conflicts that arose among some of her followers and collaborators in a different way. So the way I trained as a coach right from the start over 15 years ago has taught me to make a point of having a supervisor to support me in my coaching work and any personal issues that may arise through all my relationships. I'm saying this because it's an aspect that you might want to be aware of when you're seeking to work with a coach. So with the hero's journey, you are shown the structure of the journey that would take place through transformation. Yeah, you're shown the structure and the stages of the journey through transformation, in which the hero always faces a certain truth, a certain reality, a certain call to adventure that will take them from their present reality, which is usually limited, troublesome, or simply unfulfilling, or it has become too painful to sustain any longer. And this call to adventure then always leads the hero into the underworld, because there's always going to be a call to adventure. And then, once the hero can no longer refuse to go on this adventure, because it always happens that they refuse to change, the hero. We all refuse to change, yeah? But at some point in time, it'll become so painful to remain where they are that they'll decide to move forward. And knowing the structure of the hero's journey, knowing all the different steps and challenges that are along the way, knowing all the stages of the journey can actually help you through your journey of transition and transformation to be ready, to prepare for what's coming. Because we will look at what comes next in the hero's journey, which will always help you to be a step ahead and be prepared for what lies in waiting for you. So at every step, at every stage, you explore what this stage entails. So you're going to go out of your comfort zone, because in the future, after this coaching journey adventure has ended, you can use this archetype of the hero's journey, because you'll always be guided by the process, and you'll be able to use it by yourself. Because after you have transcended the previous version of yourself, there'll always be another one, more expanded, more mature, more empowered, and closer to love and authenticity. But in order to get closer and closer and closer, you will have to step out of your comfort zone many times, and in the future you will have the archetype of the hero's journey as a teacher. Because we're always expanding, we're always changing and growing. So it means that when you've cracked the code of the hero's journey, you'll be able to use it for future adventures, with or without a coach. Although it's a powerful collaboration, the one with a coach, that guides us and helps us produce powerful change, more so than when we work alone. So for example, other archetypes that reoccur very often in my coaching are the child, nature child, the rebel, the warrior, the nurturer, the lover, the hedonist, king, alchemist, saboteur, victim, prostitute, feminine and masculine. And the feminine and masculine, which I want to talk about next week, they're the same, they're two coins of the same archetype. So there isn't a feminine archetype and the masculine archetype. There is the divine feminine and divine masculine, all in the same archetype. And at the moment, this archetype is extremely important in all of us during this big, great awakening, because we need to reconnect with our feminines if we're women, reconnect with our masculine if we're men, and then rebalance it. Whether we're men or women, it doesn't matter. We have both. We embody both of these energies, and we'll just learn how to balance the two and become whole first. So why are these universal energies called archetypes so important? Well, with them, by using them, you get to explore new unknown parts of yourself as part of your inner work. You can experience positive growth in important areas of your life, such as relationships, work, health, to name a few, You can discover long-forgotten gifts that were previously buried within your unconscious and rejected by your ego, maybe because you were still in pain for certain things that you needed to release first. You get to embody empowering and previously disconnected parts of yourself. You become a more whole, more mature and integrated person. You understand yourself at a deeper level. You understand others at a deeper level, because once you start recognizing a pattern, when you're looking into yourself, then you start seeing the dynamics, maybe with the closest people, and you start saying, oh, that's what's happening, they're doing that as well. Although it's none of your business lecturing other people, but it can be useful for yourself. They're so useful for that, So you understand other people at a deeper level. You feel more connected to yourself, and as a result, you feel more connected to others and to life in general. You can develop a more robust understanding of how to love yourself. You can heal all traumas and wounds, of course. You get access to universal energies that can help you shift out of dark places like self-doubt, anxiety, rumination, and even the dark night of the soul. But in any case, you gain a unique doorway to accessing your higher self or your soul. And so when you start learning to deal and recognize the most recurrent patterns, the most recurrent archetypes, then they become your teachers as well. So you've got these allies, you've got this toolbox with all your archetypes out there are hidden, and when they happen and when you need help, you can ask them to tell you what's going on. So these benefits are only the tip of the iceberg with what you can do with archetypes. So in a nutshell, what I'd really like to do is to show you all of this in action in my upcoming masterclass, to which I'd like to invite you. It's free, and you can register through the link in the description below. So if you found this useful, please like and share the video and subscribe to the channel to help it grow into a community of awakened individuals, all living with the same goal in mind: freedom and personal sovereignty. Now is the time to step outside our boxes and just connect with like-minded people to share our insights and curiosity. If you want to know more or have a comment about this episode, you've got a question, why not reach out and connect with me? You will find my various way of getting in touch with me in the description below, and I'd love to hear from you. I thank you for listening all the way till the end, if you're still here. My name is Roxana Fiamma. I'm your hero's journey and transformation coach, and this was the Conscious Cruising Podcast. Light up your fire.